And now on BBC Two, Patty Caldwell tells the story of one man's battle against AIDS. Remember Terry.
I mean, I have an illness which people sometimes tell me is going to kill me. I don't believe that, but people, you know, it's a terminal illness.
You don't believe it?
Oh, no, no. Well, it might do in 30 years' time, but that's if I lay down and give in to it.
But you're not going to give in?
No, certainly not. I mean, I am quite convinced that the psychological state of someone with AIDS, or someone with any terminal illness, governs how long they live. I mean, I really enjoy my life. My enjoyment of life hasn't changed. And I've got lots and lots of things that I want to do.
Terry Madeley there, whose obvious love of life hit us right between the eyes, who saw him on Kilroy and Open Air during AIDS Week in the spring. He was the first man to come out on British television and admit that he had AIDS, and yet there he was, so bright and well-looking, so honest and funny, talking about his illness. He had an extraordinary impact on us. We had lots and lots of letters for him after the programme, and I became a personal friend of Terry's. I asked him if I could film his life with AIDS, which, if no cure would come up, we both knew would ultimately kill him. He agreed. But I wasn't the only person who was impressed with Terry Madeley.
Dear Mr. Madeley, I just wanted to let you know that you have not been forgotten just because you are no longer on television. I still remember.
Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret.
He was a celebrity, but he was a celebrity not just because of what he'd done and the disease that he'd got or the illness he had, but also because of his personality. Because he was so kind of full of life and energy and enthusiasm, and yet the man was slowly dying.
I'm not the only doctor who thinks that Terry did great things. I mean, after the programme he made with Robert Kilroy-Silk, Mike Adler was on that programme too, and he said to Terry afterwards, you know, you've put the cause forward 10 years. And I think that's very true. I think we need to think back about just how much terror there was and how much rubbish there was in the newspapers. There isn't so much rubbish in the newspapers now, and I'm sure Terry is one of the reasons for that.
There was almost a fanfare before Terry turned up. In fact, I wrote in the notes on 2 occasions as part of the clinical findings. Once I wrote very famous, and the next time I saw him I wrote even more famous, I've noticed when I look back.
As an actor, Terry never achieved the stardom he wanted. But what should have been his biggest moment of TV fame didn't quite work out as he hoped. Mike Smith was in the chair that day.
My guests tonight are sister Jackie Elliott and Terry Madeley. Jackie, good evening. Now,
The Wogan show, which didn't live up to my expectations, and as Jackie Elliott and I were walking down, I heard the warm-up comedian, if ever there was a misnomer, saying to the audience that when Jackie and I were on, they mustn't clap or laugh. And, you know, I mean, if I couldn't laugh, and if people can't laugh at me or with me, then, you know, there's no point to life.
This summer, Terry was determined to live it up. He decided to blow his life savings on a series of holidays, a trip to sunny Spain, and the holiday he and his partner Peter had planned for years. The Big Apple in style.
It was like 2 little schoolboys doing something for the very first time. And it was just super.
Be a part of it. New York, New York.
QE2 out so that we would get the panorama of New York going into it. And Concord back. Waldorf Astoria in the middle.
Around the heart of it. New York.
Up the Empire State Building, round Central Park. You name it, and we went there.
Wake up in the city that doesn't sleep.
We had a table with 4 Americans. Amy was 78 and Alice wasn't letting on. They thought the world of Terry, as you can imagine. And he held court for the voyage. Couldn't have been better.
That trip to America was Terry's dream holiday. He was so excited about it. He sent me this card, Having an artistic time here in New York, the crossing was unbelievable and we just adore luxury. If we keep this pace up, we'll need another holiday to recover. Hope you're well and happy. Love, Terry and Peter. In fact, they did have another holiday planned. He and Peter were going off to Spain at the end of August. There was a lot of chaos at the airport. So I got back from holiday and rang him up to wish him well. What I heard was a very different Terry. He sounded weak and depressed, and he told me he wasn't going on holiday, but in fact, he was going into hospital. And I went into that hospital, I admit, being rather frightened about what I might see. I'd been warned that he'd been terribly ill, so ill that he'd openly discussed committing suicide, which, coming from Terry, was a shock to us all. I dreaded the prospect of seeing him fading away. I remembered those graphic television images of poor men dying from AIDS, yet I simply couldn't believe that could happen to Terry. But that day I was about to learn that the course of AIDS is totally unpredictable. Hello, Chuck.
Hello, Chuck.
You've let me down.
I've brightened your day, love. How are you?
Oh, I love the earrings.
Oh,
I thought you were going to be wearing your strawberry pyjamas.
I've got one, love.
Oh,
I'm half better.
Brought your begonia.
Oh, no, that.
Terry discovered he had AIDS 14 months ago when a rare and incurable form of TB was diagnosed. Because his immunity is low, he's on drugs to fight the TB. He's an asthmatic, he has a low blood count, which weakens him, and he has thrush in the mouth and cold sores. But the only visible signs of illness are his weight loss and the occasional cough. All these symptoms made him very depressed. What's been wrong?
It started in Menorca. I went into this blissful little church right up on the mountain. And I'm not religious. But some churches have got something in them and some haven't. Some are banks and markets, and some have some spiritual quality which I recognise. I sat in this church and I looked up and I said, if there's anyone here, I just want you to know that I either want a complete cure or I want it over with now. Like now.
And that was when you could feel that you were getting really ill.
And that's when I thought to myself, something is much wronger than it's been before. And I'm not frightened to die. I'm not frightened of dying. I'm frightened of the process that I've watched these people go through. You know, I've seen, one friend who's been a friend since I was about 23, you know, who was demented, blind. You know, we're talking about a 38-year-old guy.
He has had a dreadful down. He's been very, very low. He's been so low that, in fact, we worried that there might be something going on in his brain, that he might have some brain infection, which goes with AIDS, which was causing this change in his personality.
I didn't realise that I looked that bad, because the mouth was still working. I mean, you know, they're going to have real problems writing out my death certificate, because I'll still be talking. I mean, like, you know, I've got to remember the list, you know, for the answers and the explanations I want when I get up there, you know. Because I tell you, if I get up there, it's me asking the questions. Excuse me, love.
What are you up to? What are you doing?
Well, I know I shouldn't, but there comes a time, love.
Oh, Terry, you're not still smoking.
Oh, they're ever so mild. And I've only had 2 today.
What did the hospital say about you smoking?
Well, what do hospitals ever say about anybody smoking? No, I have to do it in here because there's a fan. I know it's naughty, folks, but... I mean, what am I going to be, a neurotic AIDS victim who doesn't smoke? Or a well-adjusted person with AIDS who does?
Terry tries very hard to be the life and soul and to ignore his illness. But there's a big psychological element to his illness at the moment, I think. He's just coming to realise really very late his own mortality because he's been playing games for a long time with us and with himself. It's his way of coping.
Have I shown you the equipment?
You have not, Terry.
Would you like to see my equipment?
I'd love to.
But the cabaret has got to change. I'll never be anything but an entertainer. But I've got to stop doing the, hey, folks, I'm coping. I've got AIDS and I'm coping. You put it on like this, and then you turn on the oxygen. But I won't because of you smoking. And then you breathe through it, love. Have a breathe through that.
What, so this is when you were really suffering?
Yeah. It helps you to breathe. It's
Can you
a
catch
drug.
asthma?
No, I don't think you can catch anything of what I got, love.
So you were using that a lot, though, were you?
Every 4 hours, I still am. But they've cut out the 2 o'clock in the morning one. But this is real big old stuff, love. Look at this. Look at it.
What's that one?
This is a bombing raid one. You have to wear this for 8 hours, and you get free membership of the Red Arrows.
Everyone in Henry Ward at St Thomas's Hospital, London, knows and likes Terry. He often wanders freely through the open ward, keeping other people's spirits up. But I was surprised to learn most of the patients don't know he has AIDS.
Well, they're not at risk, and we would be breaking confidentiality, just the same as if somebody had cancer of the bowel. We wouldn't go around telling all the other patients that that particular patient over there has cancer of the bowel. It's none of their business what the other patients are in for.
So you're absolutely categorical, then, that there's no way that other patients could catch anything from Terry?
No, there is no way that the patients could catch anything from Terry. You can only catch AIDS by being injected with blood from a person who's got it, or by having intercourse with somebody who's got it.
Fine, Chuck. I'll see you soon. I'll give you a ring during the week.
OK, fine.
Terry's had dozens of visitors in hospital, but few more devoted than his 74-year-old mum, Lil.
I've known Terry was gay for a long, long time, probably before he realised he was. If you know what I mean, don't you?
Well, mothers always know their sons better than anybody else.
Of course we do.
What do you think about the future and Terry? I mean, the amazing thing for me is you're both so cheerful. I can see where he gets it from
why should we
now.
be miserable? If it's got to happen, it'll happen. No matter what you or the doctors or I say or push. It's not like a screen down that we can push away or push up out the way, is it?
No.
It's going to stay there. So we've got to make the best of it while we can.
I think you're a lovely mum, love.
Oh, thank
you
you
look
very
after yourself.
much.
Terry. The future? What do you think about the future?
I think you should put my mum on the National Health, Mr.
What's bloody marvellous about standing up for your own son? What is there marvellous in it? Isn't it the sort of thing you should do if you're a real mum? Well, perhaps that's just me saying it, but that is how I look at it, Patty. If your mum can't stand up for you, who will? I used to put it down the fact that he was with women, me, my mother, and 2 daughters. He was just a little bit effeminate because he was with women all the time.
I'm a textbook case of a gay man. My obnoxious father was in a sanatorium. He had TB, ironically enough. And when he came home, he just nicknamed me the sissy boy. I mean, I was 2.5, for God's sake.
When Terry grew up, it was easy for him to be openly gay, especially with a supportive mum like Lil, and in the jobs he chose, hairdressing, then acting. Professionally, he preferred the comic roles and was a real favourite with the kids in Panto. Privately, he never saw himself as promiscuous. He believes he caught the AIDS virus 6 years ago, when the dangers of gay sex were unknown and AIDS hadn't even been identified.
I did a very long tour, and during the course of that tour I had a one-night stand, and I think that was it. But I do regard it as useless information. I mean, I would never think of suing. It's ridiculous. And, you know, the guy might be dead, or the guy might be very ill now, in which case I would just go and visit him and be sympathetic in the way that I am for other people.
So you contracted AIDS, you think, 6 or 7 years ago, and then you settled down with your lover, didn't you?
That's right. We decided that we wanted to be monogamous. We didn't want any kind of open relationship. We wanted it to work on that level. And it certainly did. I mean, you know, we had a good sex life, and...
And yet you never caught it?
No. Thank God.
If you look at figures from the States, they show that 30% of regular sexual partners of people who are infected are not themselves infected. We don't really know why. probably there's something magic about these people that if we knew what it was, we would help us to find some sort of a vaccine or something to prevent the infection. But it certainly is quite common that you do get a couple where one of them is negative. And I think it just goes to show that AIDS is actually really quite hard to catch.
Terry's partner, Peter, has been a constant support throughout his failing health. Peter prefers not to be identified because, unfortunately, in his profession, unlike Terry's, fear and prejudice still exists against gays and AIDS.
The shock came when he was HIV positive. The bottom fell out of my world.
Why didn't you leave him, Peter?
Consider a married couple, one of whom has cancer. You wouldn't expect the other person to leave them. And it's just the same. Terry had a terminal illness, and for the first time in his life, he really needed someone to look after him, to care for him, to love him. And I happened to be that person.
Ah, you bird-brained sesame seed fruiting up with raisins, you just ran over my foot! You'll pay for this. You'll feel the hard end of my...
Because his health is so unpredictable, Terry can no longer act. Otherwise, he'd now be performing in this Christmas show at the Curtain Theatre in London with two of his actor friends. It was on this stage where his close friendship with Anna Gilbert began.
We met here doing She Soups to Conquer, and he was very funny and very nice to work with, and very flirtatious and very gabby. He talked all the time. The show finished, but the friendship carried on. And we've been very close ever since. I mean, very close.
Anna's friendship with Terry took on a special intensity last year when she discovered she had cervical cancer. And though she's now well again, she thought, like Terry, she was going to die.
When I told Terry, and I told him on the phone one night, he just phoned up and I was feeling very vulnerable and I sort of let it out. He immediately burst into tears and put the phone down on me, which in fact was an incredibly honest reaction, and possibly the only honest reaction I think that anyone gave me. And in fact it helped because it allowed me to grieve. It allowed me to feel sorry for myself and accept that I was ill and I was worried about it. And he phoned back about 10 minutes later and said, "I'm terribly sorry, I just can't believe it." But it was the most helpful thing that anyone did.
Jane Else also found comfort in Terry's friendship. She met him last April, only 3 weeks after the death of her 18-year-old daughter, Jo, who died suddenly from an asthma attack.
I think that the reason why Terry and I got on so well, right from the very beginning, was that Terry understood, without saying anything, exactly what I was going through. And by contrast, I understood exactly what he was going through. He was living through what I was also living through. And he feels that death shouldn't be a final thing. It should be talked about before, afterwards, and we should have a much healthier attitude to talking about it. See, people don't, do they? But Terry said to me, you should never, ever, ever say you're sorry about talking about Jo or how you feel about it or how you feel about death in general. And you must never, ever say you're sorry. And that's what he taught me.
Has that helped you?
Yes, tremendously. Tremendously. Jo would have adored him. Absolutely adored him. She liked people who were outrageous and who were willing to stand up to be counted, which is what Terry always does. On anything. And she would have adored him.
Since his TB flared up again, Terry's now been at St Thomas's for almost a month. Though he's had the odd weekend at home, he'll find out today whether he can be discharged.
Well, that's very good expansion, isn't it? It always is, though. That's your actor's chest.
No, actor, darling.
Oh, actor.
Actor, darling. Oh, sorry.
Now breathe in and out through the mouth. Stop clowning. That's much better, you know. It's hardly wheezing at all. Can you sit up and sit forward?
And I'm only smoking 20 a day now.
Now in and out again. That wheezing bit. How much are you smoking, really?
5 a day.
Well, I mean, you know you shouldn't smoke any, but that's not bad for you, isn't
I
it?
try. It's so difficult. No one ever helps you to give up. They just tell you you should. Where's the drug that knocks you out for 5 weeks? And...
Well, for someone who doesn't like taking drugs, I think that would be pretty...
Oh, I'd take drugs if it would stop me smoking, but I enjoy them. I need them nowadays. I just get a bit trembly, you know. It's me nerves. It's me nerves. Did you see Betty Davis last night on the television? Well, she was smoking on the Wogan show, and she's 80, God knows how much.
How are you?
I'm all right, how are you?
All the better to see you.
I come round to sit here.
How are you? Not so bad, how are you?
We were just finishing up.
Yes, I know. Helen sends her love.
Oh, I wonder.
And Mary sends her love.
Oh, great.
And I send my love.
Give my hand back. They took me off everything.
Yeah.
And if it's okay, I can go home on Friday.
Oh, great!
What?
This Friday, yeah, forever and ever.
Forever and ever?
Oh, that's
forever
fabulous!
And ever. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I think it's lovely to see him, and he's so much perkier, and it always cheers me up to see him. But with Terry, I mean, I think he is genuinely perkier, but he will always put on a show for you, you know? I mean, I remember him saying something about when he was in hospital before. I didn't see him then. He said that he feels that when his visitors come, he has to put on the cabaret. I mean, he just loves an audience, you know, even if it's a really close friend, and he just responds. I think he was tired this afternoon, but I think he's feeling a lot better. And I mean, the news that he can go home on Friday is great.
I gather you're going on holiday with him, and that's the intention.
Yes, we're repeating a holiday we had last year. We had such fun. We went out with half a dozen people.
Are these the photos?
They are, yes. We had 2 or 3 other people join us every night, so we'd go out with a dozen people for dinner. He organised sort of these aquatic follies, and we'd all have to be different flowers in the pool, like synchronised swimming. And this particular one was the entrance of the water goddess, which of course was Terry in this marvellous Victorian costume. He was the life and soul, he always is. Yeah. But I know he'll go. I'm sure he'll make it.
My mum's good for when you want to have a cry. She drags herself up here every day. And, you know, when I'm grumpy, I tell her to go home. I don't want to speak to her. And she says, oh, well, don't you want me here anymore? I said, well, no. And, you know, and then I tell her how marvellous other people on the ward are. And then I think, oh, did I tell her she's marvellous as well? You know, because she is. I don't know if she's actually exceptional. But she's my mum. That's all I've got.
It's quite a journey, but I don't mind that. If it makes him feel better, then I'm there. That's what I'm here for, Patty. After all, he's mine. If it was one of the others, I'd do the same thing, wouldn't I? So, I mean, what I do for Terry is done with all the love in the world. I wouldn't change him anyway. Nothing of him.
Lil and Terry's relationship is extraordinary. She herself has had 2 heart attacks and a stroke, and yet she's visited him almost every day he's been in hospital. A round trip of 2 hours, 4 buses, and a walk at each end. But recently, the pressure of Terry's illness has started to tell on him. When she turned up one day last week, they had a row. For the first time in their 41 years together. They were both very shaken by it.
Just feel so ashamed about it, but... I mean, I actually feel ashamed because of her reaction, because I was totally unreasonable to her. You know, I mean, she walked in and I have these pastils because I suffer from candida. And they leave a residue, and if you're not careful and go and wash your mouth, you've got all this muck around your mouth. And she walked into the room and she said, you've got all stuff around your mouth, wash your mouth.
And he went over to picked up his flannel, turned round and glared at me, and I could only call it a glare. I've never seen Terry look like that. He looked at me, what about you? He said, you come up here finding fault with me just because I've got a tablet up. It's only because I'm having medicine. Look at your blouse, it's got all white marks on it. And I looked down, I hadn't got any mark on me, but he was determined that he was going to make me in the wrong because I'd spoken about this, and I've never seen him do that before.
I burden her with all my problems. Her who's got quite enough of her own. And what does she do? She sits on the bed, she cuddles me like I'm a little boy, and she never cries. She never shows what she must be going through. And that's better than any psychiatrist. But she always says that words are like nails. You can bang them into lumps of wood, and with the other side of the hammer you can pull them out, but they leave holes.
How do you feel today?
How are you?
I'm lovely, aren't I? And I always lovely.
Listen.
What, dear?
I want to apologise to you for last week.
Well, last week's done and forgotten with. Just because you made me break me heart. Good
Well,
job
I was
Karen
breaking
wasn't home.
mine, so I do see why
Yeah,
she'd
but
be
mine
alone.
lasted all the way until I got home as well.
But what they've done is all them pills that made me. I mean, I did think
Was
that
it?
the pills
Yeah, I
made me
think
go a bit
yes.
funny.
Oh yes, I've never seen it. Well, I mean, I've seen you funny, but not that
I'm
funny.
not denying that I was depressed and low, but I think the pills pushed me
Yeah.
over the edge. I lost all the control. I wasn't coping like Lil brought us up to cope.
No.
So now listen. No, seriously, you're all right.
I'm fine.
Have you
Honestly.
been crying?
Have I been? What have I got to cry for?
I don't know, but you have been
No,
crying.
I haven't. No, I haven't.
You have. You have.
I
you
haven't.
have.
I haven't. I haven't. Yes, I've been laughing. That's where my tears roll. What have I got to cry for? Really and truly, if I could spend 23 and 24 hours up there with him, I would. But as I'm a bit tied up at home, I don't. My Karen is mentally handicapped. She was born a Mongol. But she's a very sweet Mongol. She isn't one of these aggressive children. She's very sweet, very loving, very adaptable. You can sort of get round her if you have to. But I mean, she worships Terry. If I say you're going to see Terry, then that makes her. She can't get there quick enough, you know.
Oh, hello, sweetheart. Hello, darling.
Have you had a nice day?
Yes, darling.
And what have you? And she goes straight in, arms round him, and kisses him. Hello, darling. And she absolutely adores him. Is that heavy? Shall I take it?
Yeah, you may.
Oh, I'm ever so good to you.
You may take the coat from me, please.
Oh, okay.
Darling.
How old were you when Karen was born?
47.
47.
Old enough to know better.
And what was your reaction when you discovered that she had Down syndrome?
Well, once again, Pat, it's something you've got to accept, haven't you? I mean, I couldn't do anything about it once she was born. The doctor told me plenty of times that I should have had an abortion. And I said, no way. I said, my second husband was very good to my first three. Why shouldn't he have one of his own to spoil? Which we did, and we have.
But you're so cheerful, Lil, about
What's the good
this?
of being miserable, Patty? There's enough misery in the world without me adding my two penny. If I want to be miserable, I can go in my bedroom and have a good howl. Who's that for when you finished it?
I told you.
Who did you tell me?
Terry.
For Terry, I think he's got enough. Does he like pink and white?
Yeah,
He doesn't.
he does.
It's a girl's colours.
I know.
They
Doesn't
are.
matter, does it?
Oh, it doesn't really matter, no.
No.
No, if you like that sort of thing, it's up to you.
Yeah.
But he'd like it because you made it, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But you're lovely with it.
Yeah, thank you. You're handsome.
Oh, thank you so much. Men are handsome, ladies are beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. No, beautiful, not beautiful.
Beautiful.
Sounds like a drink.
So how do you see Terry's future? What do you think is going to happen now?
I tell you, he's coming back. He's coming out of that hospital. We'll have so much to thank that hospital for and that lovely doctor. And he'll come back and he'll be fighting. And he'll fight all the way and he'll get to the top of his profession. He's got to, Pat. He's got to.
And what if he doesn't come through?
It's the end of my world, Patsy. Oh, shut it. You're making me do what I don't do. My Terry's coming back. There's no two ways about it. I can't do without him. If nobody else needs him, I do. I'm sorry. I love that boy, Patsy. I love him so much.
But the harsh reality is that as yet, no cure for AIDS exists. Only some hope from this drug, AZT. It can halt the progress of the virus, but it's very expensive, £5,000 per patient per year. And 1 in 4 patients on AZT get anemia, which involves total blood transfusions. So Terry had reservations about taking it.
What was really the true thing that was bothering him, which was that was the only hope that he had. And he didn't want to risk trying it in case it didn't work and then he was left with nothing. He wanted to sort of keep it up his sleeve as a possibility, as something that he could fall back on.
The impression you get about AZT is that it's a bit of a shot in the dark, that it has bad side effects, and that you can't know whether it works or not. So why are you giving it to Terry?
It's certainly true that it has side effects. The side effects are worse the iller the patient is. In patients who are actually quite well to start with, they don't seem to get very many side effects. So it's something that you want to give sooner rather than later.
It was marvellous to have Terry out of hospital. He spent a quiet few days convalescing at home, and he decided to go ahead with the AZT, which would take 6 weeks to work. A week later, he joined me for a dinner party where he was on excellent, funny form. His boyfriend rang me up the following day and said he was delighted. He seemed so happy, back to the original Terry. I went back to work optimistic, and then found this note on my desk 3 days later. It was from Lil, Terry's mum. Terry is back in hospital. I could hardly believe it. It's hard to explain how difficult it was for all the people around him to deal with his real ups and downs. 1 minute so well, and the next minute very ill, back in hospital.
Can you imagine the worst kind of flu you've ever had, you know, when everything, multiply it by 10. Physically, I mean, at the moment, I feel very, very rough.
You're looking very thin to me.
I've lost 2 stone.
Since when?
Since January. But I've lost like 1.5 stone since August. I've just got no appetite. The drugs take my appetite away. They make me feel nauseous.
But don't you force yourself to eat?
I can't. I just can't. I mean, I do try.
So what do you weigh now?
9 stone 4 ounces.
And you, how tall?
6'2". I'd get a job with the GPO.
Why?
Carrying telegraph wires across.
Now, Terry, we came 2 weeks ago, and you were really well. You were going out of hospital, you were optimistic, everything was great. And then next thing I hear, you're back in hospital again. And last night, your lover phoned up and was just really, really sad, and he was convinced you were giving up.
But that doesn't mean to say that my wanting to die has changed.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes, quickly.
Do you mean from now?
Yesterday, I've already said it, haven't I, that someone said if there was a button in front of you that you could press and you'd die like that. That's not changed. I'd press that button with no hesitation at all. I would. I'm not frightened of death. I'm not going to meet Mr. Anderton after I'm dead, or his God. What can I say? I'm not depressed, but the quality of my life is so low. And I think that, I mean, it's all very heroic when people stumble around and look like victims, or, you know, the caricature press victim. But that's not for me. It's not vanity or anything. If life doesn't have quality, then I don't see the point of life.
But you can't press a button, Terry, can you? So
No.
how are you going to deal with it if you get worse and worse?
Well, I'm not going to keep allowing people to give me these incredible medications with these toxic side effects. I'll stay with the AZT, but I don't see the point of hitting this TB that I've got so hard. You know, because outside them lungs is a human being.
If the pills do appear to be giving you the temperature, then we'll obviously have to think again about them. So we can't be sure how much good they're actually doing, but we wouldn't want to risk stopping them.
Sorry.
But I know
What
you-
about if I decide that I don't want to take them?
Well, I think that would be stupid,
Why?
because I don't think you're... I think you might die if you didn't take them.
So?
Well, we're hoping we can make you better, aren't we? I mean, we haven't come to that sort of situation yet.
You sure?
Yes. I don't think you're dying. Not at the moment. But I think I'm worried if we stopped you having these drugs, that the TB would spread and it would make you go downhill very quickly. As I've said to you before, it's a poor, it's bad prognosis if you've got it at all. And it looks as though you've had it for about 14 months, so you're really living on borrowed time anyway. Because
if I decide, if I go off those pills and my temperature doesn't go up, there is no way I'm going back onto them in 2 days' time.
the chest physicians here who look after him while he's an inpatient have felt that he's really not got at all a good prognosis at the moment unless the AZT can do some good. They feel that he won't be able to fight this infection by himself, with or without our drugs, without some boost to his immune system, and that's why we're giving him the AZT in an attempt to help his immune system to help itself to get rid of this form of TB.
But it's no cure, is it?
It's no cure.
If it's the time to die, then you might as well do it.
Do you feel it is the time to die now?
I'm not sure, but if I was given a choice, then yes, I would go. I wouldn't do anything to... I wouldn't now think... I mean, I haven't thought about suicide for ages, but I wouldn't... sorry. I wouldn't do anything to speed it up. But yes, I mean, I do, I suppose I do, yes. I'd be quite happy to go now. I'm optimistic about that, you know.
But Terry, it has to be said, you're beginning to sort of upset everyone around you with these sort of sudden depressions, and like your mum and your lover, they're really worried and a bit confused and frightened by it.
What can I say to them? I mean, all I can say to them is that I need to be me. I need not to think about anybody else in the world at the moment. I'm sorry, but I've never been very selfish.
No.
But what I really need now is someone to do the fighting.
For you?
Yeah, and there's no one.
Did it a nice weekend?
On Saturday, though, we went to Richmond Park.
Oh, did you? It's lovely out there, isn't it?
We drove around Richmond Park.
All the deers. All the deers, lovely. I know, I used to like that. Michael used to take me out there.
But there is a point, Mum. If I can't do things, if I can't go out, if I can't
yes, I do realise
do the things I want to do, there's no quality to the life.
No,
I mean, life's only worth having.
I do understand that, but then
if there's
you
things
see,
to do.
it's me. Perhaps I'm being selfish. I don't want to know what it's like without you.
So
perhaps
but it's
I'm
blackmailing me,
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Yes. If it keeps you here, yes.
But it's not fair.
No.
One day I might have an actual choice as to whether
Well,
I carry on taking medications and being kept alive or whether I decide just to go.
Well, that would be up to you then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then if you say things like that, then you're blackmailing me into saying, yes, I'll carry on.
I don't make you say anything. I mean, I can't make that decision for you.
Yeah, but I can't make the decision without thinking about you and what you think.
Yes, I know.
I can't get over this. I'm going to have AIDS from now until the day I die, Lil.
Yes, I know you are. I'm still going to say fight. I don't care. I'm still going to say fight. I've got to, because he's my son. And I want him with me, you know, as much as I possibly can. But, I mean, he'll only do what he wants to do. I mean, I know my son so well. I mean, I might be saying, you've got to fight, and he might be saying, oh, okay, you, I'll do what I want underneath. But, I mean, he said, that's enough, and that'll be enough. And I think this is how he'll go. When it comes to the end, I think that is what will happen. He'll just sort of say to himself, oh, I've had enough of this, and he'll curl over and do his tortoise act.
Look that way.
Incredibly, Terry left hospital the next day. He was soon back at Richard Smith's house, where he often babysat for Freddie and James, and called himself the only gay nanny in Clapham.
I mean, he was no plaster saint. He got very moody and bitchy at times. And Terry was a bit of a dilettante. I mean, he did this and he did that, and he rushed around and he had a good time. And somehow in this last 18 months or so when he's had AIDS, he's achieved all sorts of things that perhaps he didn't achieve in other parts of his life to the same extent.
One of those achievements was campaigning for other people with AIDS. 12 days after leaving St Thomas's as a patient, he was back speaking at a press conference for a new AIDS drop-in centre in Lambeth. 150 people saw him in fighting form.
He sat there in the back and he started smoking a cigarette in front of everybody, and I tried to stop him. I said, stop it, don't take that out of my hand. Don't you stop me smoking. When it actually came to his turn, he stood up and he made the most wonderful speech. He stood up hesitantly at first and staggered slightly and was obviously not very well, but then he got into his stride. You know, on with the show, it was definitely that. And he started to harangue the audience about how important this centre was and how great it was going to be for everybody. And he also put in a very nice plug for us and gave a wonderful speech.
HIV infection is something which changes your life unbelievably. I am a weller man today than I was yesterday because I had to be here by 11 o'clock. It was something for me to achieve, and I personally think that we are entitled to the best.
He left that room with the applause ringing in his ears to go and get the results of what he thought was a routine blood test, but he was given the worst possible news at that moment. He was told that the worst possible side effect had happened, he was totally anemic, and that he would have to have a blood transfusion and come off AZT. It was effectively taking away all the hope he had. It was perhaps not surprising that when he rang me the following day to tell me this, that he was really in tears. It was the first time he'd cried to me. He said that it had been the worst day of his life. Still crying, I remember him saying that he'd had a good life. He knew that. I've had a good life, he said. But this isn't living. And yet, the day after that, he went to a tea party with his friends to plan that holiday in the Canaries, booked for the following week. But he would never go on that holiday or reach his 42nd birthday this Christmas Day. 40 hours after this picture was taken, Terry was dead.
I have always asked my lover to be there at the moment of death, if it's possible. And I'd like my mum there because I just want her there. I've not known a moment of my life without her, so why should I die without her being there with me?
I could never think of him as dying until the very last day. It was just, I had so much hope. I didn't realize how weak he was until got downstairs, and at that stage he collapsed and we called the ambulance. He was breathing when we got him to the hospital. We got him to the ward where he'd been for some time. I felt that that was the only place where they would be able to do anything for him. They'd been wonderful to him. Suddenly, he didn't appear to me to be breathing, and the nurses were supposedly fetching the doctor, and I screamed at them to get him straight away. I didn't appreciate that they had taken his pulse, and they thought he was dead by then. I didn't think it possible. I only wish I could have told him one final time that I loved him and how proud I was of him.
I was very, very upset. I didn't expect it to be so soon. I think it was a great loss for all of us. But it was exactly the way he wanted it. he spent a long time pleading with me not to let him die in pain. He was very worried about the indignity, about losing his looks by becoming Belson-like, and he was particularly worried about getting the dementia. And he didn't have any of those things, and it was quick and painless. So I'm sure it was the way that he would have wanted it.
Do you think he had any control over that?
I don't know. Terry had control over most things.
Does it have to end like this all the time? How many other mums have got to lose some? It's just not good enough. It's just not fair. There's so many other rotters walking about that ought to suffer. Thank God he didn't have pain though, did he, Patty? No. Not really, he didn't have pain. But he just had that knowledge that he was going to die.
This is where our story ends.
Terry helped us all by planning his own funeral, even down to all this heartrending music he himself had chosen. He said we must come not to mourn, but to celebrate. We mustn't wear black, and he wanted lots of flowers.
Let our hearts call it a day.
I thought of absent friends by now in the Canaries. Today they'd be lighting sparklers for him. After all, it was bonfire night. Trust Terry to go out with a bang.
Want to say
This was to be his final great performance, designed by him to wrench every last emotion out of us.
I wish you bluebirds in the spring to give your heart a song to sing, and then a kiss, but more than this, I wish you love.
Thank God for his very humanity, for what he has meant to us and to all people. He was a larger-than-life person. I have one very, very special memory of him. A few years ago, there was quite a celebrated fancy dress party in Holland Park. I happened to be there in collar and tie, so I suppose it could be said I was in fancy dress. Suddenly, over a hill, preceded by Bo Peep, Cardinal Richelieu emerged, grey from head to toe, with, I think, a splash of red somewhere. It stole the show, of course. It was meant to. I think he should do very well where he is going. We now have 2 readings from friends.
He sat me down seriously the last time I saw him. He said, "Patty, I want to talk to you about my funeral. Got it all planned. Who else could have his coffin come into? There's no business like show business and get away with it." So I sat there very seriously and thought, well, this is important. And then he said to me, he said, "But when we go to the Kren," he said, "there's some lovely curtains there." He said, "And I want you to do me a real favour." I said, "Yes, Terry." He said, "When I go in and they close the curtains, could you nip behind the curtains, pop on a black glove, cover it in diamante and stick your hand out for me?" I said, no, Terry. A friend of his called Stuart, who you may have read, wrote about his story and the fact that he got AIDS. I read this to Terry and he said that absolutely summed up what he felt, and he knew Stuart. I may die of AIDS, I may get run over by a bus, but the problem is not AIDS, and it's not dying, it's living and finding happiness in the struggle. So my death will not be tragic, it will be a celebration of my life.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side.
AIDS was the making of Terry. He'd become the person he always wanted to be.
I think at the end of the day, Terry had a choice as to whether he stayed or whether he went. And he decided at that stage he'd had enough and he would go.
What good is sitting all alone in your room? Come, hear the music play. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret. And as for me, I made my mind up back in Chelsea when I go. I'm going like Elsie. Start by admitting from cradle to tomb, it isn't that long a stay. Life is a cabaret, old chum. It's only a cabaret, old chum. And I love a
Actually, as we started clapping, I just felt that that's what he wanted. He wanted a round of applause, but he'd specially engineered it like that.
Yes, I was so glad it was you who started clapping. I was so glad you did, because it was such a crescendo, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, except that, of course, the curtains didn't come back again.
No.
I nearly shouted out encore, but I thought that was getting silly.
When Bridge Over Troubled Waters was on, it was always his favourite time, and he was my bridge over troubled waters when I went through a very bad time.
Really?
And he was very good to my wife and my daughter, and it was Terry.
Life as a cabaret was remarkable for me. It threw up so many different things. And, well, I'll always remember the idea of a hand with Diamante on it, waving us goodbye. I'm very glad I'm here, although I don't think that someone as young as me should be going to so many funerals.
But I thought it was lovely. He'll be loving every minute of this. It was a wonderful exit. But I'm afraid I cried throughout the entire thing.
Yes, I did, but I felt as if he'd been there, didn't you?
Yes.
You know how
yes,
you go to some funerals and you don't feel that they
he
represent...
was definitely there, and it was nice to be able to say goodbye to him. But I felt when they said, it's probably Terry.
Very beautiful, very moving, very sad. That's my boy I left in there.
Oh, no, love.
Did it not upset you having those daft songs?
No, I like those. that remind me of the daft bloke in that box.
Cabaret, though.
Yeah.
It was a bit over the top, wasn't it?
So it's what he would have done, isn't it, Pat? That was his life, wasn't it, Patty? That's Terry, and he's had a good send-off, as he always wanted. He's got it.
Then we went to Terry's favourite cafe near Clapham Common. He didn't want cups of tea, cold meat and long faces. Terry wanted the sort of party he himself would love to be at. And in a funny way, he was.
I made this pink tutu. And he took me along to the party because he couldn't drive in the pink tutu. No. Well, you wouldn't be able to, really, would you?
Actually, I'm being looked after.
You've been looked after, are you, love?
He just took me to the toilet and helped me out.
Sue's just telling me, do you know about this party?
Pink tutu.
When he went with the whole of the, the pink fairy.
I've got a dress at home, Patsy. Is it a pink one I've got on top of the wardrobe? All shawl, all net.
That's the one.
On top of my wardrobe.
I thought he was an inspiration to anybody who suffered from any kind of illness, and especially any kind of terminal illness. It wasn't to do with AIDS anymore. It was to do with healing and the human spirit and everything else.
Why?
And
What
he was just an inspirational character, and it was as if he was able to rise above his own illness in order to go and help other people.
Was he a good hairdresser?
He was brilliant, but he didn't have to do any hairdressing. It was just his personality that shone through everywhere.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant.
When did you last see him?
I think about 15 years ago.
Did you mind the funeral?
I thought it was superb. Typically Terry. I was waiting for the Diamante glove.
So why did you come today?
Because I loved him. I loved him as a sister.
This is what he wrote to me last Christmas.
What's this, love?
He was going away on holiday, him and Peter.
Yeah.
And this, he sent me one, and both my daughters a letter of this. Dear Lil, how can I ever begin to tell you how much you mean to me? You know, don't you, Mum, that you really are the most precious thing in my life. What would I ever do without you? You are strong, brave, generous and beautiful. The beautiful bit gets me. And you give me so much. Oh, so much. Without your support, I might give up. But because you're on my side, I'm strong and brave too. Mum, it may only be a thank you, but it comes from my very, very soul. I love you so much, Terry.
Just a few yards away on the common where he loved to walk, there'll always be a memorial to Terry, his favourite tree. After the party, Peter went there to say goodbye to his partner and our dear friend.
The tree was so important to Terry because it was so beautiful. He wanted to be buried under it or scattered under it. And the common played an important part in his life. For quite a few years now, as it has mine. And in that way he would be always close to the common, to nature, and hopefully to me.
I wish you shelter from the storm, a cozy fire to keep you warm, but most of all, when snowflakes fall, I wish you love.
A reminder that the number for the National AIDS Helpline is 0800 567 123. The lines are open 24 hours every day and calls are free. Open Air tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock on BBC One will be discussing Remember Terry, when Patty Coldwell will be joined in the studio by Terry Madeley's mother, Lil Alexander. If you'd like to put any questions to them, the lines are open now until midnight, and the number to ring is 061 814 0424. Just starting over on BBC One, the 9 o'clock news with Martin Lewis and Debbie Thrower.
Music for Christmas on BBC Two. From St David's Hall, Cardiff, Sir Colin Davis conducts Beethoven's celebrated masterpiece, Missa Solemnis. East meets West in White Nights of Dance, when two of the world's great dance companies meet for a festival of ballet. There's a traditional celebration of lessons and carols from the chapel of King's College, Cambridge. From Glyndebourne, Ravel's L'heure espagnole.
L'horloge est à sa place.
And as part of a gala celebration of the work of Antonio Stradivari, there's a performance of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Music for Christmas on BBC Two.
And now on to more bumbledom from the body politic and a diplomatic incident concerning a proposed Sea Link tunnel in Yes, Prime Minister.
We've got to discuss this publicity ceremony for the start of work on the Channel Tunnel.
Ah, yes.
The Foreign Office is stalling again.
Well, they say the heads of agreements still haven't been finalised.
Well, it's about time they were. The big occasion, the inauguration of the Great Gates, laying of the foundation stone by the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable James Hacker. And this historic link between our two great sovereign democracies. Great coverage.
But the FO haven't agreed everything with the French.
Yes, well, I've decided the only solution is for me to have a summit meeting with the French president and sort it out myself.
I had no idea that you were considering such a stimulating approach.
Well, I am.
Prime Minister, do you believe that you personally are capable of concluding this negotiation with the French?
Well, it shouldn't be too difficult. What are the outstanding points at issue?
Well, mainly they're concerned with sovereignty. Where do you believe the frontier should be?
Frontier?
Frontier between Britain and France.
Well, what's wrong with wherever it is now?
3 mile limit. Who would own the middle of the tunnel? You see, the British position is that we should own half each.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yes, well, the only thing is the French don't think it's fair. They want the frontier to be at Dover.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And who would have sovereignty over the trains? You see, if a crime was committed on a French train in the British sector, who would have jurisdiction, the British or the French?
No, the British. Well, no, the French. No, the British.
And if a body was pushed out of a British train in the French sector, who would have jurisdiction?
Well, the French. No, the British.
You see, if a British lorry was loaded onto a French train in the British sector, who would have jurisdiction?
Well, the British lorry, the British. Or the French.
Could criminal jurisdiction be divided into two legs, home and away?
Yes, thank you, Bernard. Should we have a frontier post in the middle of the tunnel?
Well, yeah.
Halfway
no.
across? No?
No.
Or should we have customs and immigration clearance at one end or the other, or both ends?
Now, with respect, Humphrey, these are points for the lawyers to discuss at the negotiation.
Precisely, Prime Minister, but I thought I heard you say you wanted to handle it yourself.
Well, obviously, I don't want to discuss points of abstruse international law. I want to get the political points settled.
Ah, so sovereignty is not political, I see. How interesting. Now, about the signs. Now, the French want the signs to be in French first and English second.
No, I won't agree to that.
Well, you can't have your ceremony until you do.
Well, how about French first at the French end and English first at the English end?
What about on the trains?
Oh, really, Humphrey, does it matter?
Well, it matters to the French. What about the menus, French or English?